Hello, welcome back to the Ineffable Else. Welcome to a new season. This is the Virgo season, and we are moving into the final stage of the personal houses, personal signs, before we move into the collective energy. How are you feeling? Good time to check in halfway through the year, astrological year. And it is a crazy one, it's a chaotic one. Every year feels this way around this time. The Lion's Gate opening up a lot of portals internally for us as individuals and collectively. But my goodness, how important it is for us to have ourselves centered, grounded, and observe the mistakes that we have popping up in our day-to-day lives. Observe them. Don't let them get the better of you. Don't let these irritating little niggly situations get the better of you, because they're all there for your greater good, for your greater understanding of the importance of being more embodied, being more here, being more present, grounded, connected, in alignment. It's all there in the smashed bottle on the floor of the kitchen. It is in the minute little details that make us feel so very, very human and so very not spiritual, that we then find the true spiritual lesson, the true thing that can help us through this very chaotic. And there's no point beating around the bush. This is a time of enormous social upheaval. I don't know if you feel this. I certainly feel like a few years ago there was this kind of trajectory, this kind of understanding, this feeling of knowing that it's going to be unknown, but knowing that there's a heart space to move into. And I'm looking all around me now and I'm seeing like we've all kind of collectively lost the plot. It's quite a good expression for this, the plot being the main concurrent theme that carries us forward, and instead we're very easily pulled off into these strange little nuanced arguments, which if you were to turn your attention back 10 or 15 years, they wouldn't have existed. So if these things don't exist in different timelines, then that means they're really not worth our time. They're not worth our giving it import. They're worth nothing in the grand scheme of things. So always try to separate the wheat from the chaff and understand which bits are relevant to we should be thinking 7 years down the line, and also 7 generations within our own timeline. What do we want to be carrying forward? Do we want to be contributing more and more and more concepts? Or, as I had come to understand, it was about the breaking down of concepts and knowing that there's something much, much deeper below the surface, below all of this vibration and fuzz. There's something, this consistent baseline of love that kind of allows us to play these games that then create wars and all sorts of things, because within that layer of love is the ability for human beings to have their own will, which is an incredibly loving thing for us to have been given. And within that, we misuse our will, we attack one another and get triggered by one another and get offended all the time by everything. So how much can you take this Virgo energy of focusing on the detail and seeing that the detail is what is going to help us understand the bigger picture, rather than getting lost in the detail, in the hot topic of the day, which will change. Anything that's changeable, isn't real. And that's a good thing to realize, you know, this hair, this face, this body, this mind, this mindset, it's all going to pass. All of it is going to shift and shake and shimmy away. Something is very consistent beneath it all, and it can't be affected by all of this stuff happening on the surface. As we've left Leo, we have hopefully learned a thing or two about our own egos, about what we're putting out in terms of what we show to the world and how we shine. So what things did you find within yourself? What, you were in a festival and somebody just saw something in you that you'd known you had, or maybe you didn't know you had, and it kind of got you thinking. It got you wondering about the potentials that may be hidden. In exactly the same vein, was there something that you felt quite confronted by? Someone saying that you do or don't have a particular quality, and just exploring that and seeing it from a more objective stance. In this case, it's more like being a scientist using a microscope, whereby Leo may have a big reaction, a big emotional, a big shiny something. Virgo can kind of compartmentalize things and break it down and look at the lists and see which boxes you haven't checked off, which are inevitably going to become very, very big things further down the line. This is harvest season in the Northern Hemisphere we're entering. I'm visiting Scotland soon. The Scottish schools finish their summer very early, mid-August. This is because in the past they needed the kids to go and work on the fields and harvest the food. There's something about coming back to the reality of survival. We're so comfortable, we're so sure of everything being as it has been for the last 30, 40, 50 years that we've been here, that we don't realise that this period of time, this period of like total relaxation and an ability to get lost in concepts and stuff is a luxury. And that level of privilege, wow, there's so much we could be doing with it. And instead we're very wrapped up in meaningless things. Instead of stripping things back, whilst we have the ability for more comfort, we should realise this generation is the first one that's going to be far worse off than its parents. That is a theme, that is a reality, and then just making the decision for it not to be your reality. Make the decision for you to be better off health-wise, financially, in a sense of stability. There's a previous generation that have had a feeling of consistency and stability, where we've had a lot more ups and downs, and younger still generations, they can't have a solid ground to step on in an external world. So in my opinion, we should all be putting all of our energy, all of our time, all of our presence into being more present, being more aware, being more open, not sitting ducks, not, just not victims. It's not going to help ourselves, and it's not going to help society. I've played the victim game before, and it's a tragic one because it leads nowhere, and it ends up making a lot of other people a lot of money. It's very easy to take advantage, manipulate people who don't know themselves, who feel weak, who feel detached in some way, in a sense of needing attachment and not having it. There's a good form of detachment, which is seeing the kind of meaninglessness of all of these interactions, and then seeing a deeper level behind all of that, which doesn't require that much of proximity or chit chat or any of these things for it to exist and for it to matter. I really feel for you if you are suffering with a feeling of disconnection. It's also perfectly normal and expected and healthy. If you're not feeling that, then I feel really, really sorry for you, because, well, either it means that you've been fooled, or it means that you have found some way of working around this chaos that we're in now. But it does help to acknowledge the chaos and see it for what it is, and not try to put some window dressing on top of it to make it more comfortable, but to kind of just sit with the discomfort that the whole world is feeling now, and then just let it wash through you. Don't try and block anything, just let it kind of move through you, and then you feel that you have no more fear of the darkness and no more gripping for the light. The main point of suffering is when we want to change what already is, which is impossible. And just coming to an acceptance of what has come to pass. I can't change it, it's happened. But then also really learning the lesson about how it came to pass and what I could have done differently to make that less of a contribution towards the chaos if I was to encounter a similar situation in the future. And many times we do, because the universe is set up in such a way that it's here to teach us. It's here to give us these life lessons over and over and over until we get them, until we fully get them. So it's entirely about our perspective and how we contemplate the world, and not picking up any kind of identity along the way. The moment you hear yourself saying, why does this always happen to me, they've got you. That's it, you're trapped. And it doesn't matter if this comes into your head, laugh at yourself. Laugh it all off, because there is no one here more or less deserving of a happy and peaceful life. It's just there are many people who either consciously, unconsciously set up situations which are disastrous. And we can do things with this Virgo energy to mitigate the disaster to some extent, and then also have the balance and the wherewithal to be able to accept things you just cannot change. Shit happens. It's one of those things. We are entering a cooler season as Virgo progresses. So what do you have prepared for the winter? Are you looking at least a few months in advance and kind of making sure you're able to tide yourself over through the cold, sort of dark night of the soul of the year? Do you have the inner resources to get you through that? And this is sort of a test. It's a yearly test, an annual test that you can go through when you live in a place with seasons, about how you come to accept and move forward in a better way than you did last year. There's the horrible belief out there that's one of the most infectious, that as we get older, we get sicker, we get worse year on year. Doesn't need to be the case. There are plenty of examples where that's not the case. A wonderful woman in her 88 years old, and when she was 50, she was told she had terrible knees, and she was recommended exercise, as many doctors do, but they don't really give too much extra breakdown of that. Everyone's idea of exercise is different, but she started training. She started training in a big way, and now she's 88 and she looks 50. Whereas when she was 50, she looked much older, felt much older, and now she's full of beans. So any kind of statistic, any kind of medium average is always going to be quite confusing. There's one that I'd like to address about people of the past. People of the past, they died so young. They all died young. Did they? Or were there just huge amounts of babies who were dying? Of a woman having 5 pregnancies, maybe 2 would survive. That really brings down the life expectancy of an entire nation. But there are plenty of examples of people living to their 70s and 80s. I hear this many times, and then she died aged 86, and I said, well, she's bucking the trend, isn't she? We didn't all die at 30 back in the day. But that is what they say the life expectancy was. So there's a lot of discernment that needs to take place here, and a lot of things don't fit into neat little boxes. There is this nice statement that says, well, before we discovered Uranus, our life expectancy was 30. After we discovered Uranus, our life expectancy became 84. The orbit of Saturn around the Sun is 29-30 years. The orbit of Uranus around the Sun is 84 years. Ooh. But then to kind of put a spanner in that perfectly compiled piece of data, you realise that it's an average. And averages, they're really up to you where you fall on that scale, where you fall. Certain things you cannot change. Your height, for example. These things are needing to be accepted. But there are other areas of life which are far more fluid and open to interpretation and open to transformation, being stronger or weaker or more emotionally intelligent or less, depending on what you're going through and depending on how much you allow yourself to evolve. But there is a key thing to do with growth, that it doesn't just go to a standard and then, oh yeah, we're all gonna die painfully and suffer for a long time. That's a trajectory that is totally open for you. You can take that path if you so choose, and you are making a choice, whatever you do. or there is a trajectory which is we get better and better and better and better and better and more happy and peaceful and stronger and fitter and less triggered and more able to laugh at everything. How good is that if you could be in any situation with any people and just have a chuckle inside? So with this Virgo thing, it's about organization and list making, but it's about discernment as well, and being able to tell the difference between something that's going to make you suffer in the long term if you don't change it now and do something now, and on the other hand also accepting the things that you cannot change. But this requires discernment, logic, contemplation, alone, a lot of time alone. This is those final stages before we break out into the collective and really share everything and work together. This is that moment before you get on the stage, before you give your kind of, before you join the commune, before you're starting school. This is that lovely symbolism with September. It's joining the school. For me, it was so exciting. Every year around September was a new opportunity to break out into the collective and share what I had learned and rejoin into a group after some solitude. So take this time, this time of hoarding the best, hoarding the healthiest, hoarding storage. I've just bought a new storage device, these kind of things, and just take the same energy that may have had you feeling anxious, running and eating a whole packet of donuts, that kind of consumption, and taking it more in a direction of, okay, well, I've got this and this I can do, and checking off the list one by one, and it's a similar energy on a very different vibrational level, but it works in a similar way. Its manifestation, the end result is very different. So don't be scared of discernment, don't be scared of bettering yourself, and don't be scared of what potential there is for you hiding, or potentially you are hiding from yourself. It's a game of cat and mouse and a hall of mirrors type thing with yourself, with the most beautiful aspects of yourself that you're kind of flirting with yourself as you get a bit closer to truth and a bit closer to an eternal essence which lies inside of you, which sometimes we're scared of, namely because it doesn't need a lot of work done. The Virgo energy wants to do work, it wants to help resolve something, and actually there's nothing wrong with you, sorry. Absolutely nothing. Doesn't really have much currency in this world of victimhood, when actually you are perfect, 100% whole. Tragic, isn't it? So, happy harvest season, and I will wish you a merry end of summer. Please go to ineffablelse.com if you'd like to book a reading. I'll be back online in September after my travels. Thank you so much. Goodbye.